Vice President at Cisco Systems, Inc. He has been at Cisco for 20 years. Before his current role at Cisco, he ran worldwide service provider operations for 3 years, and previously was Vice President of U.S. Service Provider Sales. Under his leadership, service provider grew in revenue from $500 million to $2.5 billion. Prior to that, he led Cisco's enterprise line of business in the northeastern United States, where he established Cisco in strategic markets such as financial services, media, government, and pharmaceuticals. Mr. Dominguez speaks and motivates audiences worldwide about how technology is changing how we communicate, collaborate, and especially how we work. His style is humorous, highly animated, and full of deep insight into how technology and the right culture can create winning companies. His talks address many questions about collaboration, including what motivates people to collaborate, how to establish rewards for collaborating, how to find the right experts both inside and outside your company, and how to keep people coming together both online and in person. Mr. Dominguez is a member of the prestigious CDC Foundation, which connects the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to innovative ideas and expertise from outside partners. He is also a board member of the Institute of Large-Scale Innovation, a group of international leaders who use innovation to help solve complex global challenges. Prior to Cisco, he held management positions at Timeplex in Woodcliff Lake and at New Jersey Bell Atlanticom. Mr. Dominguez is a member of NJIT's Board of Overseers, as well as a member of the Marketing and Branding Committee. In recognition of his outstanding career in local communications, New Jersey Institute of Technology is pleased to confer the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa upon Carlos Dominguez. This time, I would like to invite Mr. Carlos Dominguez to present the commencement address to the class of 2013.
Good morning. By the way, you can cheer and laugh and have fun now. You know, this is a really happy day. I want to begin by saying good morning to all of you. And again, Dr. Bloom, Board of Trustees, my fellow Board of Overseers, my fellow honorees, I am so humbled to be in your company. Also, the parents that are here, I'm sure, as a parent myself, I can only imagine how happy you must be. Applause for the parents. Also to all the guests that are here, and to my incredible, beautiful, supportive wife, Tina, my two daughters, Kat and Tara, and my future son-in-law on Saturday, who's marrying my daughter, Audie. Welcome. And most importantly, welcome to the NJIT graduating class of 2013. Go get them. Truth be told, I've been really nervous preparing for this day. It's kind of ironic because in my role at Cisco, I'm a professional speaker, and I kind of go out and talk to audiences, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. But delivering a commencement address is a great responsibility, and sometimes, and something that we should approach with great caution. I've been worried that I would offer you all some advice, and I would be responsible for somehow derailing what would otherwise be an incredible professional career. This is a huge burden to carry, and so I thought actually. In doing research, also on Google, I found an interesting fact that assuaged my fears, that all of you, at your 10-year anniversary, over 90% of you will not recall the name of your commencement speaker. And number two, you won't remember a word he said. So it kind of, in some sort of way, it kind of gives me the freedom to talk to you. Today is truly a very emotional and a significant event for me. I never graduated from college. This is something I've always regretted, and something that I should have done, but in my case, life got in the way. Today is the closest thing that I've ever come to graduation, and I am so incredibly thrilled to be a part of yours. Thank you so much for helping me fulfill this lifelong dream. As my daughters reminded me, they told me, don't get too excited, Dad, because, about this particular degree, because you're using the easy pass lane to get it. So, I agree. In my role at Cisco as a technology evangelist, I am blessed to have a job that I love. I'll admit it, I'm a tech nut. If you ever see me walk past a Best Buy or an Apple store without looking in, I want you to assume that I have been kidnapped and it's a signal for you to call the police. As I'm out representing Cisco, I often have the opportunity to meet and interact with students from all around the world. By the way, that is absolutely my favorite thing to do. The interesting thing is that regardless of where I am in the world, the two questions I get asked all the time are the same. They are, first, how much money do you make? And number two, what made you successful? In many ways, these students are brilliant. They are trying to size up how hard they're going to have to work and exactly what sort of reward they're going to get. Although the correct answer to those two questions are, number one, not enough, and secondly, I don't know. I've been asked these questions so many times and it has forced me to reflect upon them. I've realized that my success and my passion has come from my family. Please allow me to share a few stories with you. In many ways, my family story is the classic American dream. I was born in Cuba in 1958, the son of a Cuban father and a Chinese mother. Believe it or not, Chinese-Cuban are not that uncommon. As a matter of fact, Cuba was the largest population and community in all of Latin America. And yes, in case you care, my favorite dish is fried rice with black beans on top. Get them all covered. In many ways, my thinking of this story of ours, we commuted, and left Cuba in 1962. And I imagine with much trepidation, my parents made a very difficult decision. They decided to leave their homeland and trade all their possessions, their family, and their friends in exchange for freedom. Although I was only 4 at the time, I still recall vividly my parents and grandmother hugging and crying as the tires of our DC-9 finally left their beloved homeland. I also remember the applause on the airplane when the pilot announced that we had left the Cuban airspace and we were now truly free. I'm sure they were relieved to be leaving this oppressed society, but also I knew that they would never see their families again, and they never did. My father, Hector, was an amazing man with great talents. We shared the same birthday, he and I. Hector was many things. Certainly he was adaptable. I imagine the stress he would have gone through when at the age of 40, he moved to a new country with a wife, a mother-in-law, and 3 kids in tow. A country with a different language, weather, culture, and pace. Being adaptable in that circumstance was a matter of survival. I often reflect upon this story as a reminder that survival requires a certain level of adaptability, regardless of your situation. Many moons ago, when you were a freshman at NJIT, all of you had to adjust to the pace and the cadence of this great institution. I can imagine that it wasn't easy, but yet you were able to adapt and to survive, and now to graduate. As you enter your next phase, the work phase, you will once again enter the zone of adaptability. You will be doing this throughout your entire life, and please have the courage and knowledge that you have done it before, and you will continue to do so. So success criteria number 1 is become adaptable, and do it early, and do it often. I remember years ago when I was selected by Hispanic Engineer magazine as one of the top 50 Hispanic business leaders in the U.S. My father at the time was undergoing lung cancer treatment, and when I visited him at the hospital, I could see how proud he was, and he was hugging me with tears welling up in his eyes. I remember looking at him and telling him, "Dad, it's really no big deal. They only had 48 people. And, they didn't want to pick an odd number like 48, so they went out of their comfort zone, actually picked me with no engineering degree, and, basically get qualified on the Hispanic side. As a matter of fact, they picked another person who didn't even live in the U.S., so that's how they got to the 50. Success criteria number 2, be humble and be kind. You will achieve much in your lifetime, and much like a commencement speech, people won't remember all of your ribbons and degrees, but they will remember how you conducted yourself. You will have many instances that you will have the opportunity to show kindness and exercise kindness as much as possible. My dad Hector also loved innovation. We lived in a big apartment building in Union City, along with all the other Cuban immigrants. We were always first to get the latest gadget. I wonder where I got that from. I remember the whole family's sense of awe when one day, out of the blue, my dad went out and bought a Zenith color television entertainment console. This was back in 1964. This was a 400-pound monster, and it was like the 8th wonder. 4 guys tried to carry it in, and they couldn't even fit it through the door. You have to understand, 6 of us lived in a tiny, tiny apartment, and the Zenith console dominated the whole living room, which otherwise consisted of a sofa, a chair, a small table. But boy, it was amazing. The cabinetry was superb. When it was closed, it was just like an ornate piece of furniture in dark walnut wood. But if you slid the doors at the front, there was a record player on the side, and if you opened up another door, a radio tuner on the other. The front doors opened, and there was a 25-inch, seemed big at the time, gray screen that sprang into color the moment you turned it on. That Zenith console TV was our dad's pride and joy. But it was not only a color TV, it also came with a Space Commander remote control. No one on our block had ever seen a remote control before. This one looked like a small brick. It was a mechanical system, and inside the transmitter were 4 aluminum rods that emitted clicking sounds when struck. And when you pressed the button to change the channel, the tuner right on the TV went cha-chung, cha-chung, cha-chung as the channels changed. Of course, our neighbors wanted to come and watch Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie on our new TV, and I begged my parents, don't tell them about the remote control. And I would sit there behind the couch and change channels while they were watching. That was strange, one would say, and get up and change the channel back. Then I would do it again. No one could understand why the TV was possessed. Meantime, I was almost having a seizure from laughing so hard. It was like America's Funniest Home Videos, but better. This went on for about a week, until I finally got busted. But boy, was it fun. So lesson number 3. Like my dad, find your passion. And for my dad, it was all about technology. It was TVs, it was rangefinder cameras, it was music, It was Super 8 movies. You name the electronic device, he owned it. Whether you admired his electronic or not was not the point. The way these devices made him smile and giggle explained the joy and passion he derived from them. His passion was contagious, and it was clearly a major influence in my love and my passions of all things electronic. I imagine he would have loved my job even more than I. The point is, finding your passion is key. So make passion something that you care about. The fourth scene in my memory is an evening of July 20th, 1969. The family was sitting around again, our Zenith console, when along with the rest of the country, we were enthralled by the moon landing. Here's Walter Cronkite. He comes on with that famous black and white footage. Neil Armstrong is bouncing on the moon. And strangely, I remember my grandmother getting furious about it. Es una mentira, she declared. Flinging her arms in the air, it's a lie, is what she said. And with that, she drew her tiny frame out of the chair and stormed out of the room. She simply refused to believe that a man was on the moon. I consider her the first moon landing conspiracy theorist. I don't know about you. Why did this happen, and what can we learn from it? So lesson 4, believe that everything and anything is possible. You know, we are in a moment in time where we see vast changes happening in our lives at a rate that we could never imagine before. I can imagine all of you graduating today explaining to your kids one day why you drove a car, why you carried paper, metal, and plastic in your pockets to pay for things, why you didn't have a robot to clean up after you. That would have come in handy in your dorm room, I bet. Don't get left behind. Allocate time to learn and foster a belief in the seemingly impossible, because the seemingly impossible will be our new reality. And the last thing brings me back to how I began this commencement speech, with the fact that I never graduated from college. Although I never got a degree, I want you to know that my success didn't happen by accident. If I had to pick one thing that I've done that has given me the biggest edge, is that I have dedicated myself to lifelong learning. I may have not done it in a traditional way, but I spend countless hours each day reading and learning. I'm constantly experimenting with new things and forcing myself to be uncomfortable. You see, I've learned that being uncomfortable and over my head is the way I want to live, because that's when I am learning the most. Fear is a great motivator for me, but I am fearless about trying new things. As you graduate from this great institution, remember that NJIT has given you the tools to succeed. You have proven that you can learn and that you can deliver. You should be proud of what you have accomplished. But I remind you that lifelong learning will be the key to your success in the future and the biggest weapon against obsolescence. Please remember to adopt early and often, to be humble and kind, to find your passion in everything that you do. Believe that anything and everything is possible, and success will require lifelong learning. Thank you for the great honor, and I wish you all